and we inquired whether they knew about their practice.
It's not that we don't know, but we are trying to get an amicable solution for both sides. Yes, we have discovered some of these challenges, more so in the informal sector, the trade area, where tenants are renting from a building owner. But before even filing the return, it is clearly in my tax law, it tells you need to keep proper business records. Secondly, and on top of that, the Ministry of Finance gazetted VAT registered clients to be using the IFRIS platform, implying that they should issue e-invoices.
Ms. Hafsa also explained the grief of how this practice affects them as a tax body, mostly when it comes to collecting tax. But she says they are working out all possible ways to combat it and create sanity between both parties and the government as well.
So it's quite unfair if this landlord can't issue the right document, because it disorganizes the whole chain. Because one, if you're giving me just paid, something like that, paid doesn't have who is issuing, exactly who is issuing, what's the name of the person issuing. Those nitty-gritties I need to know. Ideally, it would be an off on our side. And secondly, on the side of the tenant, how will they account for this expense? Because ideally, I do allow them expenses. But these expenses should be justifiable expenses. How do you justify them? We expect expenses to be IFRIS related. So when the landlord does not do this, they are basically tampering with the whole system, because the landlord's income is an expense to the tenant. So which expenses am I going to allow for this tenant? Because we all know rent takes a big chunk of money in somebody's business expenses. So at the end of the day, it's disadvantaging the tenant, and at the same time, it is also disadvantaging the government. So we are still trying to continuing the engagement to see that we deliver the right method. We want to know why exactly. Why can't they issue the right document? Is there pain? Is it a knowledge gap? Do they need training? Is it system compatibility? We need to see what exactly could be the pain, so that us as URL, we are meant to see that our processes are simpler.
However, an experienced economic researcher from Accord Uganda has warned how this cancer of tax evasion is likely to affect the development of the country if it is not dealt with early enough. He went ahead and advised the Uganda's tax body on how to go about it.
Delivery, whether it is health, whether it is education, is financed by resources that are generated by government. And one of the sources is through taxation. So indeed, if Uganda is not able to generate enough resources to finance development as a result of tax evasion, to provide the necessary services. Two, actually we have to resort to borrowing, and you know the borrowing also has its own high costs and implications. And therefore, it is not a job that can only be done by Uganda Revenue Authority. It needs coordination between Uganda Revenue Authority and other agencies, because URA does not have the monopoly of investigations. I know they have a tax investigations department, but we also have other agencies that actually do investigations. And therefore, the collaboration or the coordination between URA and these other agencies that do or support their work.
Money laundering is a cancer that is slowly and steadily hindering Uganda's development. But the question is, does Uganda have the potential to heal from it? Monica Nabyonga, Smart 24 TV, driving business.
Mombasa, the largest port in East Africa, and Nairobi, the capital of both passenger and freight traffic, are possible on the railway roads. With a 480-kilometer line, it takes less than 4 hours to go from Mombasa to Nairobi instead of more than 10. Less than 8 hours are needed for freight trains to make the voyage. The Mombasa-Nairobi standard gauge railway line's main construction work started in December 2014 with China Road and Bridge Corporation serving as the main contractor. In 2017, the railroad line was inaugurated. An extension from Nairobi to Naivasha was constructed during the second phase. The $1.5 billion extension began operating in October 2019. The project's Mombasa-Nairobi segment cost Kenyan shillings 3,027 billion, approximately $3.8 billion. The decision to join the standard gauge and meter gauge railways will fundamentally alter the import to export landscape of the region. The newly launched program by Kenya Railway was a cooperative effort by Kenya Railway Corporation, Kenya Ports Authority, and the Government of Kenya, is anticipated to persuade more businesses to use the Northern Transport Corridor while importing or exporting commodities to nearby landlocked nations like Uganda. The Portree's marshalling yard on Mombasa Port was constructed by Kenya Ports Authority to facilitate the efficient movement of freight to service East and Central Africa.
As you can see, a marshalling yard is a terminal yard where trains terminate and trains commence when they make their up movement. The port is where our imports come into the country. That serves not only Kenya, but East and Central Africa. This is what we call the Northern Corridor, which Mombasa Port serves very well. The standard gauge rail commenced operation in 2017, initially with a passenger train. 2018 January, we started our Madaraka freight train. This place where you are this morning is where the freight trains start from.
Since the standard gauge railway construction, cargo and container depot, where it then travels through Naivasha's inland depot to Kisumu Port, which is connected by meter gauge railway, has been instrumental.
The meter gauge railway and the standard gauge railway. Principally the difference is the width, what they call the gauge, the distance between one rail and the other. The meter gauge, which is an old railway system, is exactly 1,000 millimeters. The standard gauge railway